Acres and a Mule. That's what we were promised, right? That's what we're going to talk about today, 40 acres and a mule. But not that specific situation. We want to use the symbolism of 40 acres and a mule to talk about everything else that we're expecting to be given to us, to be able to survive, to be able to do well in life, to be successful. What I want to suggest today is that we have to stop looking for that 40 acres and a mule, because it ain't coming, okay? And how many years, how many tens of years, how many hundreds of years must go by before we realize we're not going to get anything, okay, even as black people? That's not going to happen. Because it's even hard to define what a black person is, in this nation. It's easy when it's something disparaging. When you want to be ragged, when you want to be called thugs, or you want to be, victimized by the police, or have issues, with the healthcare system or housing and all this stuff, getting a job. Oh yeah, you're black, okay. But when it comes down to doling out some money, some finances, the government isn't going to do that, because, and the reality is, who would be allowed to get that? Who would have that genetic reality from the people who were actually oppressed, the Africans who were oppressed that got here? Most of us are mixed with all kinds of stuff, and I'm sure that's what the government would fall back on. How can we determine who is qualified to receive compensation for the ills done against the Africans? We have so much, most of us in this nation of black people are of mixed blood, of this and that. None of us are like, from the deepest of Africa as far as our skin color. We don't look like those slaves that were brought here. My grandfather was Mexican. My mother was an Irish immigrant. And so how would they figure? They're not going to figure. They can't figure that out. And they're not going to do it. So we have to figure out another way. We have to recognize that it would be in our best interest to stop looking for help from the oppressor, from that entity that perpetrated the ills against us, okay? Because, common sense will give us to understand that whatever help we're given can be taken away. And whatever help we're given is not going to lift us up to the level of the perpetrator of our ills. It's going to be enough to satisfy us, to keep us in a particular holding pattern so we won't be a problem, okay? And with the threat of taking it away if we act up, okay? So recognize that. We don't want to be beholding to the perpetrators of our oppression. We don't want to be holding to them at all. So we need to stop looking for help from them. I know a lot of people got upset, some of my friends as well, up in arms when the affirmative action was canceled for HBCU, for black students. And so, that posed a big problem for black kids that were on their way to Harvard. Really? All I'm saying is that there was a particular baton that has been passed down generationally through the black folks in this nation historically, and when situations were a lot worse for us than they are today, and those people survived. Those people ran that race. They ran that race on valuing education, okay? They passed that baton to us. Now there are a lot of areas lacking in those generations that were before us, but they did the best they could with what they had, and they passed that baton of education, where their education is out there for anyone who wants to get it. I remember I was a mailman in the inner city around Dunbar High School in Dayton, Ohio. That was my area for like 20 plus years. And I remember walking down those streets close to the school, and I'd be seeing school books just laid out in the road, and notebooks and all that stuff laid out in the road. The people were rejecting, the young people, young black kids were rejecting the education that was there for them. See, we can't do that. That is not the baton that was passed to us. Now there were some negatives with the baton that was passed to us. There was like the health issues, the high blood pressure, the cholesterol. Those were the negativities that came along with that baton, but we could fix those. We have so much insight on health and fitness today that there's no reason for us not to be well. So those folks before us ran the necessary race to get us to a place of equality. Okay? Now we want to say there's no equality. We want to say there's racism, and there is, okay? But as I shared with my daughter a couple of years ago when she was a junior in high school, was that me and my wife and myself, we took my daughter out of the reach of racism. She kind of took issue with that because she didn't want to believe that right off, you know, because white people are this and white people are that. You know, they may be this and they may be that, but you can take yourself out of the reach of the bad ones, okay? How? I mean, look, you have the police officers, and some of them, I don't want to say they're bad, but if you were a police officer, and you were driving behind someone and you ran their license plate, even if you weren't supposed to, and you get this big long rap sheet, this long list of infractions behind this individual's name, you're automatically going to make a judgment about what kind of person you're dealing with right there, and you're going to respond to them accordingly. For me, you know, when I was younger, that's what I had, man. I was on the verge of losing my license. I might have had warrants out for my arrest, you know, for things I hadn't paid for, you know, all kinds of stuff. And so automatically, you know, if a police officer would have run my plate, you know, I would have been, you know, it would have been problematic, and which it did happen a couple times. But now if a police officer runs my tag, it's like there's nothing on there at all, okay? And so what I'm suggesting is that will keep, that right there keeps me out of the reach of racism. There might be a bad cop, there might be a racist cop, but when they run my name and license plate, nothing pops up that defuses, that de-escalates, that quells that negativity within that individual, and he's going to go about looking for someone else, okay? So that right there, it's the legal aspect. Stop breaking laws. You know, don't do things that you're not supposed to do. Do right. And from a legal perspective, see the institutions that we have, the justice system, the legal system, even the law enforcement system is racist. And it is heavy-handed toward black people, as it shouldn't be, as compared to white folks, okay? But what I'm suggesting then is keep yourself out of the reach of that system, because if you keep yourself out of the reach of that system, they can't touch you. They're going to go out looking for somebody else, okay? And as well, you know, back to that baton again, as far as health, you know, they passed us a good baton as far as education is concerned, giving us an equal, a free and an equal education, okay? And we do have that. Went through a lot of stuff. I remember when busing happened, I wasn't affected by it, but all this stuff went down. You know, all these negatives and positives and anger and protesting, to get us to where we are today, till we have an education that is available to us. The only thing is, like the old adage, you know, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. You have to take advantage of that, okay? And this is what a lot of our young people are not taking advantage of. And I think it's kind of our fault, because I know my son and my daughter through school. My son coming up, he and I worked on projects together. Sometimes I think I put a little bit too much of my hand into it because I just get into it, some of his science projects and all. But that homework and those projects, that's hands-on with the parent. As well with my daughter, she's in one of the best schools in the region, from the 3rd grade to the 11th grade, MVS, to Miami Valley School. But you know, as far as I was hands-on with her, every night, homework, I was working with her, helping her along, you know, whenever she needed help. And she would be in some math problems, some algebra problems or whatever, or even beyond that, which was pretty much my limit, was algebra, that we were trying to find the solutions on how to figure out how to do a problem. And finally I would tell her, just go to bed, honey. And it was a work night for me, but I'd stay up till 1 or 2 in the morning on the internet, on these math sites. I can't even remember what they were, it was so long ago. But until I figured out how to do those problems, and when she woke up, I would teach her how to do those problems. So it was hands-on, okay? Every step of the way, okay, from her middle school all the way up, lower school, middle school, high school, hands-on, man. And see, this is one of the areas where we have dropped the ball. And I don't want to jump the gun here, but our alcohol and our drug use, we need to stop. See, in order to be a parent, in order to be an effective parent, you have to be available 24/7. Okay? We don't have the luxury of being buzzed, our child needing something from us, and we got to wait till we come down or to give some coherent instruction or some coherent help. So that's we are killing our community. And when I say our community, I don't mean the community like in the streets or the community center, but I mean the community as us, as a corporate entity, us as black people, by the habits that we have, are rendering us pretty much ineffective some of the time for our children. And as we know, our children need us effective all of the time, okay? It's for even the time that we spend with them versus the time they spend on social media versus the time they spend watching TV. We need to be there. We need to be there hands-on, okay? And so what I found even with my daughter, especially when she was in high school, you know, let's go to Chipotle's, you know, let's go to Starbucks, let's go somewhere. And so we're driving and we're talking. Even after she got her license. Let's go somewhere. I'll drive, but let's just go somewhere. There's nothing more important than those talks. I think for me, one of the biggest blessings was from pre-kindergarten and for preschool. I think she started at Mini University over Miami Valley Hospital, and all the way up through her elementary, through her lower school, middle school, high school, and all that. I drove my daughter to school every day. We had conversations every day. I wasn't buzzed. I wasn't high. I didn't have a hangover. None of that stuff, man. I was sharp. I had to be to have real conversations with my daughter. I loved that, and she benefited from that. And she's wise from that, man. I tell you, it's up to us. We do a lot of time spend a lot of time ragging on our kids today. But if you're drinking alcohol and you're smoking weed, you can't be ragging on anybody's kid. You are the problem. And I don't want to be so harsh, because that was me back in the day. That was before I was Martin, when I was Marty, okay? But see, my kids never met Marty. They don't know that guy. Thank goodness. Okay. So this one was sober. This one was serious. My daughter was 3 when I started attending college. I was 50. Okay. And I earned my associate degree, my bachelor's degree, and my MBA within the course of like 10 years. I missed half of 1/4 of school in the whole 10 years. I went to school straight 10 years. So that's what she got to see. And as a matter of fact, that's why my limit was algebra when I was helping her with her homework, because that's, you know, college algebra. During my associate degree, that was the limit, you know, as far as the math that I required for that associate degree. Then I went on with the economics and the accounting and all that stuff later. But this time, I was demonstrating the importance of education before. Remember that baton that was passed to us? Well, they're not going to get this reality through osmosis, man. They're going to have to see us demonstrate the value of education before their eyes. They're going to have to see us demonstrate the value of sobriety, demonstrate the value of being in good health, you know, demonstrate the value of functioning within the legal system, man. I had a conflict on one of those social media platforms. It could have been Instagram or something. When this guy, there was a stepdad taking care of his kid, and, well, you know, his stepkid, and I don't even think he was a stepdad. I think he was the mama boyfriend, but he could have been a stepdad. Stepdad, that's what it said. And he was supposed to be picking up that boy after school, and the boy's mom was saying, "Oh, you don't have to go. His dad's coming to pick him up." This guy got upset. His dad hadn't been in this boy's life for 2 years, and all of a sudden he was trumped. You know, he was moved out of the side, you know, because that day his dad wanted to pick this boy up. Now, this guy hadn't been in the kid's life for like 2 years, and people were saying, "Man, stepdad ought to move because that's his real dad," and all that stuff. You know, probably dealing with some personal experiences. You know, most of those comments. But I didn't have those issues in life. Okay, so let me speak from an objective perspective. And having done volunteer work in the juvenile justice system for like 17 years, I missed 4 weeks in 17 years, every week, that there are a lot of parents, fathers, that don't need to be in the kid's life. Just because you're the biological dad, that doesn't mean you need to be in that kid's life. What kind of life are you living? What kind of example are you presenting before this child? If you're not living a good life, if you're not living a good example for this child doesn't need to know you. That's selfishness on your part. You don't, this child doesn't need to know you. You just want to know this child because that's my child. But if you're not a good influence on that child, there is no reason on this earth why you need to be in that child's life just to be that kind of example. Man, you go down to juvenile detention. I mean, I was there for 17 years, but I've known people that worked there for like 30, 40 years, and they tell me that they've seen like 3 generations of kids locked up at juvenile. They knew the grandparents, they knew their kids, and they knew their kids, all locked up. Why? Because these kids were looking at these adults in their lives. These adults were the examples that these kids modeled their lives after, and they became just like them. No, if you're a poor example and a poor excuse as a role model for your child, do your child a favor and don't come around until you get your act together. For real. Come out of prison and want to explain to your kid the facts of life. Come on now. I'm just saying, there come times that mothers and fathers need to sacrifice for their kids. Sometimes that dad is not the best example. Sometimes that dad should not be in that kid's life. Life is going to be hard enough anyway, man. I'll tell you, man, I remember my son when he graduated from Chaminade and he was attending the University of Cincinnati. I was still a mailman in the inner city. And I was walking down this street, and there was this boy there that I remember my son said he was in classes with at Chaminade. And this boy is sitting on a stoop with his pants halfway down, smoking a joint. I guess we call them blunts now, right? Smoking a joint. And my son was at the University of Cincinnati embracing a higher education. I didn't even have the heart to talk to this kid and tell him, hey, I know, you know my son or anything like that. I didn't want to make him feel bad. But why did this boy think that's okay to be sitting on his mama's porch smoking that joint when other kids his age that he had graduated high school with were off in college doing something else? There had to be influences in that young man's life that were not positive, okay? And I'm just saying we can't do that. Look, my daughter coming up, we live in this big old giant house in this real nice neighborhood. Too big for us, and my neighbors, we're not really on the same economic level as a lot of them, but we're working on it. So why are we here? We were here because it was important. I wouldn't raise in a situation like this, but my wife wasn't either. But it was important for my daughter to come up and grow up in this environment just believing that this is the way life is supposed to be. And that's what she is now. She's off a sophomore in another state, going to college, on her way to becoming an attorney, because we created an environment for her that allowed her to believe this is what she was supposed to be. We created role models. I was a role model for her as far as my school. For 10 years of her life, from age 3 to 13, she saw me the importance of school. Her mom is a business owner, creating businesses, has a business now as a preschool in Dayton, growing, very successful. My daughter's seen me doing this program for like 19 years, all of her life, and working in the communities and doing this and doing that. My daughter volunteers, building beds for homeless, for people that need beds in the state that she lives in, always doing volunteer work, always over organizations, volunteering to lead, volunteering to create. That's what she does. That was the environment my wife and I created for her, and that's what she became. We have to be that for our kids, man. As far as health is concerned, I mean, what I'm suggesting is this whole program is about making our own way. We don't need the handout. We don't need them even to honor the promises that they made to our ancestors. We should know there's a forked tongue issue going on there. Those things aren't going to manifest. What I'm saying is we need to make this manifest ourselves, and so we would pass this baton. We need to carry this baton the right way, with a healthy run, and be able to pass that baton to our kids so our kids can be further along than we are, and better off than we are. And so that is a responsibility that we have as far as the lifestyle that we live in front of them, okay? Health-wise, look at us. I mean, first of all, in our defense as black people, most of this nation, we're out of shape. We're overweight, out of shape, high blood pressure, cholesterol, heart issues, and all these things that are health related that could be pretty much, I think for the most part, avoided if we would just eat healthy and exercise, okay? Very important. And so, you know, I don't know if I'm all that bright, you know, but I did stumble upon some stuff, and I've been exercising, working out, and trying to eat right for the past 25 years, okay? And just stumbling along my way, discovering this, discovering that, and now I'm very healthy. I'll be 66 this year, 2024, and I exercise every day. I eat healthy every day, and you know, with my kids being that example, man, my son ended up, man, he runs those Reebok challenges. He is cut. I ain't cut, you know. I just do the cardio thing, okay? My daughter, she goes to the gym, the Planet Fitness. They have a gym on her campus, and they have a gym where she lives, the apartment complex. She works out. They're in great shape. And I don't want to take credit for what they've done, but I can say that the example that I have presented before them, whether they were there or not, I'm always taking care of myself. So if they weren't taking care of themselves, I couldn't say it's because I was not the example, okay? So I will not take the credit for what they're doing, but I would suggest that if they weren't doing that, I wouldn't take the blame either, okay? And so I am presenting that example before them. I'm presenting the example of eating very healthy. I think I eat more healthy than both of them, but you know, I'm old. I'm running for my life right now, as old as I am. They're young. My daughter's 19, my son is 35, okay? But still, there's that baton that we're carrying. It doesn't matter if they're on or if they're off or if they're not eating right or not exercising or whatever it is. I have to keep doing it. I have to be the one doing the right thing, so whenever they look up, whenever they're wondering, you know, I don't care, you know, if they've been binging on McDonald's for like 2 months or whatever, whenever they look up, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I am that model, that role model before them, okay? So I don't base what I do on them. I just do what I do. And if you're my Facebook friend or Instagram or TikTok, you know I post those workout pictures, a couple of them a week, okay? We have to be that example. We have to carry that baton. We have to make sure our kids are self-sufficient. We have to make sure our kids don't require a handout to be well, okay? And to be healthy. Now the one area where my children have deviated, and I get from me, and that's okay, is I believe an individual should be armed, should be able to protect themselves. So you know, I don't mind that part, and if they don't want to be that part, because there's always an opportunity to get yourself jammed up if things don't go right, you know. And I wouldn't want that for my kids, but I do believe that we need to protect ourselves, be able to protect ourselves as well. And you know, that's where I'm coming from. That we don't need to be dependent on the government. We don't need to be looking for 40 acres and a mule. We don't need to be looking for a hand. As a matter of fact, we don't need to be looking at our politicians as our saviors, okay? Now, we have our particular favorites. I know I do in this upcoming presidential election, but we're not going to talk about that right now. I know you do too, okay? But the reality is, what if your hero loses? Okay, what if your presidential hopeful doesn't win? Where are you going to be? You going to be okay? You need to be. You need to be taking care of yourself in such a way that it really doesn't matter who wins. And no matter who wins, you're still going to be fine, okay? And so I'm suggesting then, you know, that we need to begin to reevaluate our lives. Don't be settling for your situation being as it is because it's okay. Always try to improve yourself. Always enhance your position. So that when the smoke clears and the dust settles, it doesn't matter what kind of chaos is going on in our nation or in our world, you're going to be okay. Make sure your finances are like that. Make sure your health is like that. Make sure your legal standing is like that, okay? Make sure you're protecting yourself. Just cover the bases all the way around, and that's the legacy that we want to pass to our children, is that we don't need to be dependent on the government. We don't need to be dependent on any kind of please, you know, anybody doing something for us because we're asking them or begging them. Man, that's the worst place in the world for us to be as black people today. Don't put yourself in a position where you have to go ask somebody for help, okay? That's one of the reasons we need to do our jobs, go to work on time, handle our business, man. I just hit 30 years with the government. Amazing. With the Postal Service. And before that, I was with NCR for 13 years. Before that, I was in the military, the Air Force. We just need to So I mean, I was finding my way. With NCR, it was like, okay, you guys are losing your jobs. I took a buyout. But the point is, we don't stop. We have to continue. We have to be successful. And for me, that education I got from age 50 to 60, I didn't need it. I still have the same job. But that example that I demonstrated before my children, and I wasn't even thinking that at the time, but that example was priceless, man. That example, it generated more revenue than if I had gotten a job based on those degrees that I had attained. And the revenue I'm talking about is the revenue that my daughter is going to be creating, the revenue that my daughter is going to be producing for herself. And even my son is the example, although we both graduated at the same time, he with a bachelor's degree, me with an associate degree. I continued, he was satisfied. But I'm just saying that in this nation, yes, as black people corporately, we still have a long way to go. We had Barack Obama as a president. We may or probably will have Kamala Harris as a president. But still, the question is, what position are you in today? Okay? Well, one of the, I don't want to digress, but one of my biggest pet peeves, I think, when Obama became president, were all the black people that were saying, he didn't do anything for me. Or even today when folks talk about it, what did he do for black people? Look, the role of the president is not to do stuff for black people. For me, Obama that's when I went to school. Man, he became president on my 50th birthday. Okay, and I was like, man, I got a high school diploma, his brother's from Harvard. Man, I went to the local college just going to get that associate degree so I could feel like I did something. Man, 10 years later, I had my MBA. I was inspired. Okay, he inspired me. He passed that baton to me, a baton of inspiration. We need to see that. We need to see that because we got to recognize this relay race ain't over. We just running our leg of it. Who we passing that baton to? And what's that baton going to look like? You see those races where they run the relay race and the girl or the guy running trips and falls? Okay, come on now. Is that what we're doing? What kind of handoff are we handing to the next person, our children that are running that race? I mean, come on now. So my remedy, and this is what I'm going to close with, is we need to stop getting that buzz. Period. We're at war. I mean, we're not at war, we're not in combat. We're not in that kind of war. But we're in war for our rights, war for our freedoms, for real. Because all the talk that any of the presidential hopefuls can do, whether it's the one side that's, make America great again, that guy, even to that guy's constituents, and then you go to the other side, the hope and the everything. So you got the Trump on one side, you got the Kamala on the other side, and the people that they're speaking to. But the expectations that these people have of what their guy is going to do for them, there are too many of them simply depending on their champion to change their lives. And the thing is, neither one of those folks that are running for president have the ability to change the lives of their constituents. That's going to be on them. Okay, now we're going to change the life of the contenders. This person either going to be president or this person is going to be president. So we're going to change their lives. But in order for our lives to be changed, it's going to be up to us to make the decisions that are going to make our lives better. Otherwise, come on now. I was speaking to this one guy. He was like, he was a Republican, and he was saying, I'm not political. Because my feeling is, until black people are totally equal in this nation, each political party is simply using us for their votes. For real. I mean, you have those politicians, many of them millionaires, or they're going to be millionaires if they get in office. So they're vying for our vote, so they can have the power, they can have the money, and have the prestige, and be in those positions of authority and all that. So we are helping them attain their goals, but we're not attaining our goals. I was watching one of the presidential hopefuls yesterday give a speech. It was Kamala, and it's the same as with Trump. When I watch them and I see the people behind them for both sides, and the people that are holding the signs and that are screaming and yelling, I'm like, I can't just simply give my life for the success of someone else. it's like almost diminishing me, you know. And so I'm not really ragging on the process. I'm just saying, for me personally, as a black person in this nation, whoever becomes president, we're still going to be in this same position. And until we decide we're going to step up and we're going to have the initiative to step up ourselves, we're going to be in the same boat. Look, man, we have had Democrat presidents, Republican presidents. When I was in the military I joined in 1976. There was Gerald Ford and there was Jimmy Carter. Those were the presidents. And so Ford was a Republican, Carter was a Democrat. And then came Reagan. What I'm saying is that there have been Democrat and Republican presidents all along. Okay, black people, though, all this time are still pretty much in the same position, unless the individual black person has taken up, you know, the initiative to become something else. Now, don't get me wrong, because this is why I was talking to this guy, man. I mean, I'm not political, so I can have conversations with both sides, and I usually end up getting in arguments with Democrats and Republicans. But this one buddy of mine, he's a Republican, Army, and ex-Army, and so we're talking, and he was saying, well, you know, Trump has done so much for black people. I'm like, really? I said, well, what has he done for white people? And the guy was looking funny. I said, look, you told me yourself you got $300 in the bank. You've been married 3 times, divorced now. You're addicted to drugs. Some broken family, addicted to drugs. You're not happy with your job. So you're with your life. So don't tell me what Trump has done for me. Well, what has he done for you as a white person? Nothing. And so the point is, there's no politician that's going to be able to do anything for you. Kamala Harris isn't going to as a black person. Neither is Donald Trump as a black or a white person. You have to pull up your own bootstraps. You got to do it yourself. Look, you know what? You know, after I got my degree, man, it was like my worldview expanded. All 3 of the degrees. But I'm listening to a lot of people who are complaining because they're not successful. And they have college degrees, and now they have college debt, many of them. And my thing is, the college degree isn't going to guarantee you a job, okay? The college degree really is just an extension of high school, okay? What's going to guarantee, unless you're in some kind of specialty and you're great at it, like physics or, you know, AI or something, some kind of mechanics, all that kind of stuff. But the reality for most people that graduate college, the determining factor of your success or your failure is going to be what you have within you, your drive, okay? And so it's the same drive we're talking about over here as black people, as far as your health, okay? As far as staying out of trouble, right? As far as your education, you know, the drive to do well in school, all these things, to be healthy and to eat right and all this stuff, all these positive things, that's your initiative, that's your drive. Come on now. Why are you out of shape? Where's your initiative? Why do you have a criminal history? You know, rap sheet. Where's your initiative? Why are you, you know, to use that old phrase where God was looking for Cain, why are you where you are? Okay? And so no, it's the same. The politicians aren't going to do anything for you. It's just like your degree isn't going to do anything for you. It's got to be you. Now you take that degree and then you go out there and you make it happen and you put this together and put that together. As far as your life, regardless of who the politician is. I mean, we have our favorites. But what are you going to do if your favorite doesn't win? Protest for 4 years? Come on now. Their success or failure, your success or failure, doesn't have anything to do with whoever is holding that seat in the Oval Office. It has 100% to do with you. Whether I've been employed now for 30 years. Imagine the different presidents that I've functioned under, even at the post office. And then before that, 13 with NCR, and before that, you know, I did a stint in the Air Force. So there have been many presidents of both political persuasions, and I've been fine. You can be fine. Just take care of your business. You have to, because you taking care of your business is carrying that baton and passing that legacy on to the generation that's following up behind us. How's that?